Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking, and before this video starts, I want to use this opportunity to say thank you all who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal, or Super Thanks. I really appreciate your generosity, so thank you friends and have a blessed day. Today's video I will start with the Avdiivka direction, where Russian offensive continues as I speak. All throughout last week and especially in the last 24 hours, Russians made some significant gains here in this area to the north and south of the city. First, let's discuss the southern flank, where Russian forces continued their offensive operations in the direction of settlement of Severne and Tonenke across the open fields from the settlement of Vodyane. They also yet again made several attempts at advancing through Vodyane in the general direction of Pervomaisky, in support of the attacks from the settlement of Pisky along the E50 road. Russians were also recorded attacking from the settlement of Opitne in the direction of Avdiivka itself. However, at the time of recording, most of the Russian attacks here on this sector were repelled by the Ukrainian forces. However, when it comes to the Russian attacks from the settlement of Spartak in the direction of the outskirts of Avdiivka and fighting within the industrial zone of the city, the situation is different. And this is where Russians are continuously making more territorial gains. First, Russians were able to advance along this road and capture several trenches that are located to the both sides of it. If I zoom in, we can see them here present. And as a result of this successful offensive operations, we're able to capture this much territory from the Ukrainian side. As you can see, this recent territorial Russian gain, although significant, made Russian positions within this particular portion of the front vulnerable to multiple Ukrainian counterattacks from all flanks, which forced Russians to continue their offensive operation. And as I speak, Russians are currently attacking here, and as recent report suggests, advancing ever slightly. Report suggests that Russians already advanced and took this restaurant here called Tsarskaya Akhota, started fighting for this small area here, and generally increased their presence along this railroad. The gains that Russians had made in the last 24 hours have not stopped here, as they also increased pressure within the industrial zone to the south of the city. This is their territorial gains within the last days, and this is their territorial gains in the last 24 hours. Then from here let's visit northern flank of Avdiivka, where although there are no territorial changes to report as of today, it is important to note that Russians continue their attacks in the general direction of Ukrainian-controlled village of Novokalinove along this open fields in attempt to gain more control over the rail line and start direct attacks in the direction of Novobukhmutivka and Ochertine. Russian forces are also continue fighting within Stepovo village to its flanks in attempt to force Ukrainians out of it completely. And as you can see, Syriac maps had depicted Stepovo in the gray zone, and if it is true, we are soon to hear the news of this village to be captured. Russians are also attacking in the direction of Kokplant, currently advancing here in the direction of the Avdiivka city and are now fighting within this dacha area, capturing about 10% of it, and attacking from the settlement of Kamyanka in support of this attack. When it comes to the Russian attacks in the direction of Novokalinova, there were reports that Ukrainians had mostly retreated from the open fields in front of the settlement, as they lost very convenient positions along the rail line, which made their defense around this village compromised. So perhaps soon we will see more reports of Russians gaining territory around this village. Perhaps in attempt to relieve pressure from Novokalinova, there were reports of constant and fierce Ukrainian counterattacks in attempt to reverse this recent territorial gain and retake control and initiative on the northern front of Avdiivka. However, despite all attempts, Ukrainians are hardly successful here, and most of their counterattacks are successfully repelled by the Russians. Now, before we leave this portion of the front, I have an interesting video for you. It is a video of Russian bombardment of Avdiivka coke plant. Although, as you can see, it's not Azovstal yet, but I'm sure sooner or later the Russians will start to use more serious weaponry, as they did with Azovstal when they realized that they are unable to storm every single building within the industrial complex. And if that is to happen, This will surely provide us with some historical footage. When it comes to how fast Avdiivka will fall, there are three options. The Ukrainian one is that Avdiivka will never fall, just like Bakhmut. Second option is that Avdiivka will fall in the manner of Bakhmut, meaning Russians will not encircle the city itself, leave a small bottleneck, and will instead attack in the direction of the city itself, thus creating yet another meat grinder, where Ukrainians are at a big disadvantage. For some reason, a lot of people are forgetting that Ukraine is much smaller than Russia and has much smaller human resources. Not only will Ukrainians be forced fighting in extreme conditions of ammunition and other resource hunger, reinforcing and rotating Ukrainian troops will be under constant fire by the Russian artillery and even small arms, depending on how small the bottleneck will possibly be. Hopefully you can already see the tragedy unfolding. Now the third theory goes that Russians will continue to advance to the flanks while attacking in the direction of Avdiivka city only in attempt to fix Ukrainian forces within it and not allow them to quickly relocate their troops and support their comrades elsewhere. If that is true, Ukrainians will sure see this encirclement coming a mile away. They are already being cautious and are withdrawing some of their troops and command of the brigades away from the city. And if the situation becomes more desperate, they will withdraw even more troops. With the lack of a sufficient amount of fighters within Avdiivka, Russians will advance here even more. So as you can see, there's hardly any way Ukrainians can come out of this unscraped and victorious. However, if you feel like I'm wrong or want to add something else, you can always go in the comment section and express your opinion there. And also, while you're there, please don't forget to like, comment, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel. These actions are very important for the growth of the channel, so please consider supporting it with your activity. From here, let's quickly discuss the situation on the Bakhmut front, because interestingly enough, the Russian counterattacks here have not stopped. And in the last few days, Russians were able to make some significant territorial gains near Avdiivka and Klishchiivka. First, let's discuss the situation around Avdiivka. As you can see, Russians were able to successfully cross the road yet again and re-enter the settlement itself. If we zoom in, we can see Russians are now in control of about 50% of the settlement. Of course, Ukrainians are currently attacking in attempt to reverse this recent Russian territorial gains. However, at the time of recording are unable to do so. The Russians also advanced near Klishchiivka, mostly within this forest. Currently, they are tangled in a positional style warfare within this forest line and trench lines located in them. And if Russians are to take control over it, they will be able to enter the trench of the very important trench line system. With its capture, the settlement of Klishchiivka and Andreevka will be visible from the tactical heights, as well as all the territories in between them. We already see Ukrainians retreating from the settlement of Andreevka, and if the situation is not to change, we are surely to see the same in the settlement of Klishchiivka. From Bakhmut, let's visit Velika Novosilka sector, where here mostly positional style of warfare continues, as Russians continue their offensive operations around village of Priutne in attempt to expand zone of control around it, and are also attacking in the direction of Rivnopol and Novodarivka. The situation around Staromayorsky and Urozhaynaya is slightly different. Russians here are mostly holding their defensive lines in front of Zavetna Bazhanya, occasionally attacking in the direction of those two said villages. In fact, I have a video in which Russians are using cluster munitions of their own after they spotted movements of Ukrainian forces within the tree lines somewhere near Staromayorsky Urozhaynaya settlements. From Velika Novosilka sector, let's move to the Orikhiv sector and discuss Ukrainian activity in the last few days, where here Ukrainians were attacking in the direction of the village of Verbova, village of Novoprokopivka, village of Kampani, and of course in between of those two said villages, in attempt to expand their zone of control around the settlement of Rabotine. When it comes to the attacks in the direction of Verbova, Ukrainian attacks were repelled by the Russians. Same could be said about settlement of Kampani. However, local success is reported near Novoprokopivka and here in between Novoprokopivka and Kampani. As always, here in Robotina, Ukrainian advancements are coming with a high cost. For example, here on this video, you can see Ukrainian column advancing as Russian ATGM crew hit and destroy the last vehicle in the column. It is unclear whether those Ukrainians are retreating or advancing, but this entire sector has been a free-for-all for Russian ATGM crews, drone operators, and helicopter pilots. And Ukrainians continue to suffer heavy losses on this front, despite the fact that the intensity of their attacks had significantly died down. Here on this video you can see Ukrainian column of troops advancing in the open fields, although at night, but in the open, they are spotted by Russian ATGM crews and fired upon. Now, the last portion of the video, of course, I cannot show for obvious reasons. If you want to see uncensored version of my video, you can always join my Patreon or join my Telegram channel, where those videos are also present in a raw format without any editing. Before I end this video, I have another video for you, very interesting. However, I am not sure where exactly it is taken. It is a video of Russian LMTB loaded with a lot of ammunition and used as a so-called kamikaze tank, drive into Ukrainian positions and explode in a spectacular manner. With this, I end today's video. Hopefully it was to your liking and was informative enough. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day and always remember, Russia will be free and great.